Grieving military mums are calling on the King to commission a new medal for parents to honour their fallen soldier children.
Now, the Elizabeth Cross, originally designed and awarded by the late Queen, is given to the next of kin of fallen soldiers, which in most cases is a spouse. But there is a campaign for parents to receive a new medal commissioned by King Charles in recognition of their loss and sacrifice.
Joining us now are Carol Valentine and Caroline Whitaker, both mothers who have lost their sons in combat. Carol, if I can start with you, please. Just explain, not the theory behind this, but how you've gone about it. What does this mean? What do you want?
We just want the right to be able to grieve with the same dignity as any other mother. Because if your soldier's not married, and then, of course, the parents get awarded the Elizabeth Cross. We've tried to purchase it so that we could perhaps have one in the line if your son's married. And rightly so, it goes to the widow. That's not a dispute. Next of kin, we accept that. But we just can't see what the issue is that they couldn't award two in that case.
It's an extraordinary thing, Caroline, and thank you for joining us, Caroline Whitaker. Your story is the same. So if a soldier who's died is in a relationship, has a partner, that partner being the next of kin, the spouse, whatever gets it, the families are simply saying, we want something to remember our boys and girls with. Why, at the risk of saying the wrong thing, why do you need to campaign? To me, it makes perfect sense. Surely it would just be a case of giving out 2 or 3 at the same time.
Yeah, we've even offered to purchase it. We even offered to pay for it. I mean, I could turn my living room into a military museum tomorrow and I can get one to have on display in that museum. No questions asked whatsoever.
Karen,
that's how ludicrous it is.
Explain why the Elizabeth... Why does it make a real emotional difference to you to have this piece, basically, designed by the Queen for this purpose, for you to have it as parents? How does it make a difference to your sort of relationship and your grieving process?
I think it's about respect and dignity as a parent. We just feel that we're kind of forgotten, really. It's because your son's married, and as Carol said, I have no qualm about my son's widow having that brooch, but I feel that the parents should have one too.
What is the response of the spouses, the widows, your daughter-in-laws, in effect? Are they supportive of the campaign that you are?
I think they understand. They understand how we feel. In the very early... I mean, they've moved on now, remarried, and it's got new lives, which is rightly so. That's the circle of life. They were young women. We wouldn't want them to be in the grief process for the rest of their lives wearing black. That's not... Do you know what I mean? We were happy that they've found a new partner and they're moving on with their lives. So, I mean, and we've got quite a few widows that have said, like, we understand. It's just the MOD, really, because when your son's married, you're told by the MOD you're not family. So anything to do with...
You're told by the MOD
you are not family. You are not recognised
as
as family. You're not allowed to attend any function or do in memory of your son or anything like that. You don't get an invite.
But if the next... This is really interesting, isn't it? Because if the next of kin has gone on and married again and you are his blood or her blood, honestly, you're not allowed to...
Yeah. When they did the names at the National Arboretum on the wall, we didn't even get invites to go and attend.
Wow.
And an unveiling ceremony of a name that you gave to your child.
Karen, is this actually about something bigger that says families whose, you know, your son or maybe your daughter have lost their lives in service, their families aren't looked after sufficiently afterwards?
I think my situation's a little bit different because I have been invited to things and my daughter-in-law has given up one of the children's tickets for me to be able to go. And I think when the names were unveiled at the Arboretum, Carol were before me and they fought, and by the time it came round to Gareth, a couple of years after, we actually did get invited.
Put into words, if you can, for our viewers and our listeners, and forgive me if this is the wrong question, you're absolutely campaigning for something that I think everybody should throw their support behind. Both of your sons lost their lives in service. I can't even imagine as a parent losing one of my kids. It must be the strangest and most horrifying thing as well, in that your horror and your misery is also balanced with pride. Is that the wrong thing to say?
Oh, absolutely. And the main thing as a bereaved parent is you don't want your child to be forgotten. So you spend all your time doing things in their memory to keep their names alive and not just be a number. But then it's like a two-tier grief system.
Right.
If your son wasn't married, then you're entitled to grieve with dignity.
Doesn't make sense.
But if he was, I mean, excuse me, it gets me upset every time. But if he was married, then you're not allowed to grieve with any dignity.
And also, I think the point that Carolyn made, different for you in that your daughter-in-law, who was married to your son, did they have children?
Yes.
So you're still heavily involved in...
Yeah.
Is she remarried or...?
Yeah.
But you're heavily involved in the grandchildren.
Yeah,
Did your son have children as well?
Yeah, he did. And he's, Gemma's remarried again and they've started a new life in Australia.
So you don't see your grandchildren?
So you've lost another.
Do you...
well.
That must make it more difficult in that Carolyn has... contact, not only the grandchildren, but a reminder. You don't get to see... You feel like you're ostracised by the MOD and, in effect, that part of your son's life is now on the other side of the world.
I'm really happy they have this really new life and they're having an amazing life as well. And James, her new husband, is a lovely guy and is really good to my son's children. That's the main thing you worry about when they're going to remarry, is that, you know, he's amazing on that one. So that I'm really pleased about. And I understand wanting to start a new life because it can be hard, living in a dead man's shoes. Do you know what I mean? So I totally understand that and I wish them well and everything else like that. But it is, like, very hard, like, losing them again. Do you know what I mean?
Carol, when you make that plea, and obviously this is raw, it's probably never going to not be raw. Why do you feel as though that message doesn't quite sink in? Is it with the MOD who just can't quite compute the feelings of families?
I just don't understand what it is that I mean, the fact that somebody could write to you in the early days of your grief anyway and say you're not family, so we don't even have to answer your question.
Do you hope that there'll be a shift in
well, what we thought
opinion because there's a new king? Because he's...
Well, we hoped one of our mums has written to King Charles. We just thought perhaps maybe in his reign he would like to produce another cross, the King Charles cross.
You've written to Johnny Mercer, the Veterans Minister?
Several times.
No response?
Not much, no.
I'll take that up for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, we've gone to lots of MPs because, like, there's mums all over the country, so they've targeted all their MPs. So we just thought, an election year coming up, let's have another try at this, like, do you know what I mean? It's just so frustrating that anything that we have to do to attend anything has to be a battle to do it. Not just an automatic invite. No, we've got to go and fight and say, we'll involve the press. And then we'll say, well, we'll stand there and we'll tell people who we are and why we can't be that side of your ringed off.
Can I just say, page 19, no, 17, I can't read it, of the Sun today. Give us medals for our lost heroes. Plea by military parents. Have a read of that in the Sun. And ladies, thank you. We will do all we can.